Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Evelyn Lee. Here are today's top stories. The White House accusing Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of going back on his word after he said he won't support the president's social spending and climate bill. Winter holidays approaching amid a nationwide spike in Omicron cases. New York City is now considering whether to keep its annual Times Square New Year's Eve celebration. Texas kicked off construction of its own border wall. The state's governor called the project an unprecedented move to safeguard the nation's border. Chinese American veterans recognized for their service in World War II. Many of them are no longer with us, but relatives receive rewards on their behalf. This holiday season might not be so jolly for the White House. That's because President Biden's sweeping social spending package still doesn't have enough Democrat support. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Senate Democrat Joe Manchin told Fox News Sunday he won't support President Biden's social spending bill.
If I can't go home and explain it to the people of West Virginia, I can't vote for it. And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
The nearly $2 trillion package needs full support from the Democratic Party to get through the Senate. And Manchin remains a holdout, saying he has concerns about rising CCP virus cases, the true cost of the bill, and inflation.
Where I'm at right now, the inflation that I was concerned about, it's not transitory, it's real, it's harming every West Virginian.
Manchin said he's also concerned about the country's national debt. The Congressional Budget Office estimates Biden's bill would boost the nation's deficit by $367 billion over the next decade. Supporters of the bill are upset with Manchin's lack of support.
If he doesn't have the courage to do the right thing for the working families of West Virginia and America, let him vote no in front of the whole world.
The White House issued a statement Sunday saying Manchin's comments are at odds with his discussions this week with the president, with White House staff, and with his own public utterances. We reached out to Manchin's office for comment, but didn't immediately hear back. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Cases of the Omicron variant are on the rise across the U.S. and the world. New York City is now considering whether to cancel New Year's Eve celebrations in Times Square. Health experts also are urging travelers to get their vaccines and boosters.
Concerns over the spike in Omicron cases is gripping New York City. Calling it an urgent situation, Mayor Bill de Blasio renewed his emphasis on vaccinations and indoor mask wearing.
We need to act urgently. We are seeing a very substantial rise in the number of cases in a way we haven't seen previously.
The city had more than 5,700 new infections in the past week, marking a 5% increase in positive cases since early this month. De Blasio said there won't be another lockdown in the city, adding that he expected the surge in Omicron cases to be a fast and temporary phenomenon.
We expect these next weeks to see a very, very big surge in the number of cases, more than we've seen previously. And then we expect, after a period of time, that it will dissipate.
The city is also weighing whether to move forward with the New Year's Eve celebrations in Times Square.
To your question about New Year's Eve, so we've been in touch with the Times Square Alliance. We're going to make a decision before Christmas.
Omicron has so far spread to 43 states in the U.S. and around 90 countries. Since the start of the month, both COVID-19 infections and deaths have risen about 50% in the U.S., with the number of hospitalized patients up 26%. In areas with community transmission, the number of Omicron cases is doubling within 1.5 to 3 days. It's spreading rapidly in countries with high population immunity. White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci issued a warning on NBC's Meet the Press show, saying vaccinations and booster shots are more critical than ever for holiday travelers.
If people need to travel and want to travel for the obvious family reasons during this holiday season, if you're vaccinated and you're boosted and you take care when you go into congregate settings like airports to make sure you continually wear your mask, you should be okay. But we are going to see breakthrough infections, Chuck. There's no doubt about that.
Fauci explained that a booster shot greatly increases protection against the new variant. That as 48 people on the Royal Caribbean cruise tested positive for Omicron over the weekend. Though the company's website states that guests 12 and older must show proof of vaccination. According to Fauci, Omicron will likely overcome Delta as the dominant variant in the United States.
Senators Cory Booker and Elizabeth Warren have tested positive for the CCP virus. Both were vaccinated and received booster shots. Both senators sent out tweets saying they only have mild symptoms. They say the vaccine is the reason they only have mild symptoms, adding that everyone should get vaccinated and get booster shots too. It's unclear whether the senators contracted the Omicron variant or some other strain of the virus. On Friday, Southwest Airlines said its chief executive tested positive for the virus after appearing at a Senate Commerce hearing. He attended alongside other airline industry executives. Southwest said the executives is vaccinated and recovering at home. Warren and Booker are not members of the Commerce Committee. And CNN is closing all of its offices in the United States over the countrywide COVID-19 spike. Only employees who must work on site will have access, but they need to wear masks regardless of vaccination status. This was confirmed by CNN commentator Brian Stelter. CNN President Jeff Zucker issued the directive in a memo sent to workers. Zucker said he's limiting access to CNN offices out of an abundance of caution. Stelter tweeted that this essentially brings CNN back to its 2020 COVID-19 protocols. Earlier this year, CNN executives issued a rule requiring proof of vaccination for in-field and office workers. Over the summer, the network fired 3 employees for coming back to work without having received the vaccine. At that time, Zucker said the company has a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to vaccination. And Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have entered into the league's COVID-19 health and safety protocols. This as the NBA increases its pandemic safety measures, which includes the recent postponement of several games.
The good news didn't last long for the NBA's Brooklyn Nets. Just a day after announcing they were welcoming back their star point guard Kyrie Irving for games and practices in which he is eligible, multiple media outlets reported today that he and 11-time All-Star Kevin Durant have both entered into the league's COVID-19 health and safety protocols, giving the Nets a total of 9 players not able to step on the court. Durant has been putting together an MVP-caliber season for the Eastern Conference leading Nets, while Irving has not suited up for the team yet this season because he refuses to take the COVID-19 vaccine required to enter the Nets' Barclays Center. The team previously said the guard would not play or practice with the team until he could be a full participant, but recently had a change of heart. The NBA, NFL, and NHL have all seen games postponed due to the recent COVID-19 outbreak. As a result, tighter rules and protocols are being put in place in order to slow the spread.
Texas kicked off construction of its border wall over the weekend, just 6 months after Governor Greg Abbott first unveiled the plan. It's part of the state's efforts to curb illegal immigration at the southern border. Here are the details.
Texas is building the first section of its own border wall. Governor Greg Abbott officially launched the construction project at a Saturday press conference in front of a segment of the wall.
Texas is taking what truly is unprecedented action by any state ever for a state to build a wall on our border to secure and safeguard the sovereignty of the United States as well as our own state.
Stretching 7 miles in the city of Rio Grande, the barrier is part of an effort to stop illegal entry along the southern border. The Trump administration had started building a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico, but President Biden canceled that project after taking office. Abbott criticized Biden for failing to address the border crisis.
This unprecedented action is needed for one single reason, and that's because the Biden administration has failed to do its job as required by the Constitution, as required by laws passed by Congress, to enforce the immigration laws of the United States of America.
In June, Abbott unveiled a plan for a state-funded border wall. He pledged $250 million as a down payment. The project has so far received over $54 million in private donations. That's in addition to $1.8 billion in state funding for border security, which includes money for building walls, barriers, and temporary fences. The governor later issued a statement calling the wall's debut a major milestone in efforts to combat illegal immigration, stop the smuggling of drugs and people, and keep communities safe. Immigration enforcement is one of Abbott's top agenda items as he seeks re-election next year.
Chinese Americans who served in the U.S. military during World War II are being recognized for their service in the world's deadliest war. They are now receiving Congress's most prestigious civilian award, the Congressional Gold Medal. NTD's Jason Perry attended the ceremony.
I'm here at Dr. Sun Yat-sen Middle School in Manhattan, where many Chinese American veterans were recognized for their service in World War II. Many of them are no longer with us, and some of them had children and grandchildren that came to receive their congressional medals. In 2016, the Chinese American Citizens Alliance began working with legislators who later passed the Chinese American World War II Veterans Congressional Gold Medal Act. It was signed into law in 2018. The law allows Chinese Americans who served in World War II to receive the Congressional Gold Medal. Congressman Lee Zeldin, who voted for the bill, described what fighting in the war was like for many of the young Chinese Americans.
Grew up very fast in places very far away. Saw danger in ways that they had never been anywhere close to experiencing or having thought about.
Ken Han received the Congressional Gold Medal on behalf of his uncle, who was killed in World War II.
And he was sent out in Cisterna with a grouping of 5 to check out a point, and they were ambushed by Nazi Germans, and this is where we're at right now.
Retired Major General Bill Chen was the first Chinese American to become a 2-star general.
So, on one hand, the recognition for this is late. However, it is still significant.
Others at the event shared stories of their relatives, including Kelly Bitt, who accepted medals on behalf of her grandfather and great-grandfather.
So my grandfather served in the Flying Tigers, and so he was based in China.
He and my uncle also fought in the war, too. Together, they were in the same division, and they were deployed into Normandy invasion. And one of the few stories he told me was he was crossing the bridge as they were kind of marching toward a certain area. The bridge blew up and then left my uncle behind.
Before we left for the day, Luke Gong offered to show us pictures of his relative who served in World War II.
My grandfather, tank mechanic.
Although many of the Chinese American World War II veterans could not be here today to receive their congressional medals, many of their family members who were here are proud of their service to the United States military. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
The Miss America pageant has just celebrated its 100th anniversary. This year, a candidate from Alaska took the crown, an honor now awarded less for looks and more for talent and leadership. Emma Broyles from Alaska won the Centennial Crown along with a $100,000 college scholarship. Emma took home the title in a competition held at a Connecticut casino. She was up against 50 other contestants representing all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Originating in Atlantic City in 1921, the contest has now evolved over the past century. It moved away from emphasis on purely physical appearance in the past few years, and looks are no longer a factor in the judging. A new focus has been placed on leadership, talent, and communication skills. The finale was traditionally a primetime TV broadcast, but that also changed this year. It was only available to stream via NBC's Peacock service. And coming up, a Japanese billionaire returns from a 12-day spaceflight tourist trip. He becomes the first space tourist at the International Space Station in over a decade. A private villa thought to be home to the world's only Caravaggio mural goes up for auction in Rome. Its Texan owner describes living with a priceless depiction of Greek divinities. That and more coming up on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
The ongoing supply chain crisis? Big tech and other woke companies giving billions to the liberal left? Where will you shop for Christmas? Go to Mammoth Nation. We created a safe place for patriots to spend their money for Christmas and beyond. Shop thousands of products from American and veteran-owned businesses. Shop to the right, give to the right. This is how we fight tyranny. Go to mammothnation.com right now and become a lifetime member today. Use promo code EPIC and save 30%.
Japanese billionaire Yusaku Maezawa returned to Earth today after a 12-day journey into space, ending a practice run for his planned trip around the moon with Elon Musk's SpaceX in 2023.
The 46-year-old fashion magnate and art collector launched from Kazakhstan on December 8th, along with his assistant Yozo Hirano and Russian cosmonaut Alexander Mizyukin. Maezawa, a space enthusiast, made the trip in a Soyuz spacecraft and became the first space tourist to travel to the International Space Station in more than a decade. One of Japan's most flamboyant public figures, the entrepreneur returned to snowy conditions on Earth with precipitation and sub-zero temperatures at the landing site. He'd entertained his social media followers from space by taking photos of his home province, showing how to make tea in zero gravity, and discussing the shortage of fresh underwear. Maezawa will become the first private passenger on the SpaceX moon trip in 2023, as commercial firms including Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin usher in a new age of space travel for wealthy clients.
British Brexit Minister David Frost resigned over disillusionment with the direction of Boris Johnson's government. The resignation deals a major blow to the Prime Minister.
The resignation of Frost, an architect of Johnson's Brexit strategy, raised questions about the future tone of the EU divorce. Frost said he was confident that Brexit was secure, but said he had concerns about the government's direction. "You know my concerns about the current direction of travel," Frost told Johnson in a letter released by Downing Street. He added that Britain needs a, quote, lightly regulated, low-tax, entrepreneurial economy. His resignation was first reported by the Mail on Sunday, which said it was triggered by Johnson's tougher COVID restrictions and a broader discontent with tax rises and the cost of environmental policies. Frost said he'd agreed with Johnson earlier this month to leave in January, but because his move had been leaked, it should happen with immediate effect. "We also need to learn to live with COVID," Frost said. "I hope we can get back on track soon and not be tempted by the kind of coercive measures we've seen elsewhere." The departure of British government's most senior Brexit negotiator comes on top of warnings from some of his own Conservative Party lawmakers that he must improve his leadership or face a challenge. Johnson's under pressure over a series of scandals, including a video which emerged showing his staff laughing and joking about a Downing Street party during a 2020 Christmas lockdown when such festivities were banned.
The Netherlands will go into a strict lockdown over the Christmas and New Year period to try and contain the highly contagious Omicron coronavirus variant. Prime Minister Mark Rutte revealed the news over the weekend.
European countries have been tightening restrictions in a bid to contain the Omicron variant, but now the Netherlands is going even further. Prime Minister Mark Rutte announced a strict lockdown that will cover the Christmas and New Year holidays.
Nederland gaat nog een keer op slot.
The Netherlands is again shutting down. This is unavoidable because of the fifth wave that is coming at us with the Omicron variant. Omicron is spreading even faster than we feared, and so we must act now to prevent as much of the worst as possible.
The lockdown starts Sunday, closing all non-essential shops and services such as restaurants and museums until mid-January. Schools will be shut until at least January 9th. In addition, the government is recommending that households receive no more than 2 visitors. Upon hearing the announcement, the Dutch flocked to stores to fit in some last-minute shopping before the lockdown takes effect. The strict new measures follow a nighttime lockdown imposed late last month. That resulted in a drop in infections from record levels. But since the Omicron variant was first found in the Netherlands 3 weeks ago, cases have surged.
A private villa that's thought to be home to the world's only Caravaggio mural will go up for auction in Rome. Its Texan owner describes living with a priceless depiction of Greek divinities. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Villa Aurora in Rome will go up for auction on January 18th for $565 million. The property is now inhabited by the third wife of the late owner, Princess Rita Boncompagni Ludovisi, 72. A Texan formerly called Rita Jenrette.
When I got to Rome, I thought, this is the most beautiful city I've ever seen. And then we went to the Trevi Fountain, and I took a coin and I said, oh, I wish that, I hope I marry an Italian and live in Rome for the rest of my life.
Hidden inside is the world's only mural painting by Baroque painter Caravaggio. It depicts an allegorical scene with the gods Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto representing the transformation of lead into gold.
Caravaggio ceiling is an oil and plaster painting. It is not a fresco. And he really didn't want to do it, but his mentor, Cardinal Francesco de Monte, asked him to because he was an alchemist, he was an alchemista, and that was his alchemy room.
The luxurious property is the only remaining portion of the 17th century Villa Ludovisi. Princess Ludovisi recounts her 18 years living in the villa in close proximity to Caravaggio's work. She now hopes that whoever buys the house will recognize its priceless artistic, historical, and cultural value.
For me, this represents the happiest years of my life. And you know, it's been such a privilege. It's been my privilege to be here with my husband and to restore this house as much as we could.
The site is protected by the Ministry of Culture. Once a bid has been agreed upon at auction, the state will have the option of buying the property at the same price. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The Antarctic Ice Marathon tested competitors with soft snow and unreal temperature lows. It's the southernmost marathon on Earth and took place just a few hundred miles from the South Pole. Polish endurance athlete Grzegorz Begonia claimed the men's title in a time of 3 hours, 53 minutes, and 2 seconds. He was just over a minute ahead of France's Julian Cazorla. In the women's race, Latvia's Evija Reina set a new women's record with a time of 4 hours, 6 minutes, and 11 seconds. The last women's record for the race was 4 hours, 20 minutes, and 2 seconds, set in 2013 by a British runner. The USA's Grace Yao took second place after arriving at the finish line over an hour later. 62 people from 18 countries competed. 11 of those joined the Seven Continents Marathon Club now that they've finished this race. Competitors from Chile couldn't fly into the race site because of a massive storm. The storm also delayed the start of the race to December 17th, 3 days later than scheduled. Tiger Woods and 12-year-old son Charlie finished second place at the PNC Championship. They lagged 2 shots behind winners John Daly and his son John Daly Jr. Tiger made an impressive play in his highly anticipated return to competitive golf. A car accident in February nearly cost him his leg, but Tiger impressed and went bogey-free over the 2-day event. This year's tournament again took place at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, Florida. It features teams of fathers and sons. This year also featured a father-daughter team. While Tiger was the main attraction, his son Charlie stole the show. He displayed his father's trademark calmness and delivered accurate drives and timely putts. Tournament winner John Daly and his son finished 27 under par and achieved a tournament record. The event featured featured 19 father-son pairs and the father-daughter team of Nelly Korda and her dad Peter. Justin Thomas and his father Mike won last year. This year they finished tied for third. Thanks for watching. You can catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. That's it though for NTD News Today. I'm Evelyn Lee. See you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.